I want to show you quickly how I line up my t-shirts for a t-shirt quilt. I show in another video how I organize them as far as never putting all the whites together, the colors together. So check out my other videos. I have several on my YouTube channel, The Secret is Gratitude, and lots of blog posts on thesecretisgratitude.com. But basically, I'm working on one right now for my father, a life quilt, things he enjoyed and liked to do. So what I first do is I ask them if they have any t-shirts they want on it. And I've done this for my daughters for cheer and drill and high school and missions and college and things like that. But right now I'm working on 3 different quilts. I have a Broadway one I'm working on for a daughter, and I'm working on a Dr. Seuss one for another daughter. And I wanted to show you how I collect the t-shirts. So I have different bins, and I show that on a different video. But I just go to secondhand stores, or I post on like a Facebook YouTube page, a Facebook yard sale page, and I just say, hey, I'm looking for this. Friends sometimes will have an old t-shirt. I've done Sesame Street, Warner Brothers. I've got several Mickey Mouse ones. I'm doing a princess one right now with Disney princesses for one of my daughters. So I just start collecting items that I want at secondhand stores, and I tell people that I'm looking for them, so if they ever go and they see one, they can find them too. I usually try not to pay more than $3. If it's something I really want, I'll pay up to $5, but most of the time I'll pay $2 and $3 for the shirts. Sometimes I'll look out like this one and find something. We were looking for one more shirt for the Dr. Seuss quilt, and I found this one the other day. Anyway, so you can see on these shirts I've cut out 2 of each, so I cut the front and the back of each thing evenly, and I make sure that they all line up space-wise. So you want them all to, you don't want to have some that are shorter and some that are taller. So you try and line them up when you're doing it to be the same width or height. Sometimes I use the back and the front of a shirt, and I'll stitch it on the other of a shirt. And so this one I actually forgot. I didn't have a second back to. So I saved the ones I cut out a little bit. I use this name up here for my dad's quilt, and then I'll save the rest of the quilt. So now I can cut out a back for this one, so I need a second one for this one. So always use double thickness, because then it will pull and snap the thread, and you won't be able to have a decent thickness of a quilt. Then once I've got them all lined up, I wanted to show you this particular one because I have different heights and widths. So all the shirts that were kind of shorter, I could put on one row, but then these ones are all longer. And I've actually added things to the bottom of these to combine shirts so I could get more of a story on the quilt. So you can add the bottoms of other quilts or arms or something off the sleeve. We lived in Alaska, and my dad had a bear encounter, and I thought this shirt was hilarious for that. And he also used to go hunting with seaplanes up there. So I combine those 2 shirts and something off of the back or the arm or something for that Alaska quilt square. So that was my dad's Alaska square. So all of these squares have meaning to his life, or they're things that they got. They served as missionaries down in Native America, Navajo Nation. So I have a couple kindness of that, and it's a joke. There's an ATM one down on the bottom of that money one. So I always try. So like this one was a really thin one. We did the Macarena on a cruise with him when we went down to San Marcos. It was so cute. He was in the dining room doing the Macarena. So I saved this shirt that we bought down there and put it on the back of a sweatshirt because it's such a thin shirt. I wanted a thicker back. So sometimes if it's a really thin shirt and you're worried, you can put it on the back of a sweatshirt. Then I line them all up, but I want to show you they don't have to match up. So on the top one, there's some that are a little bit wider on the squares, but as long as the length of the row is equal to. The height does not need to matter as long as the height on all of the ones in the row matter. So this is a shorter particular row, and most of the rows have 6 shirts like the top row, but then these 2 rows, which are going to go on either side, there's a row in between this one and this one. But so these ones actually have 7. So I've made them a little thinner so that I could put these skinnier ones in the middle. So I just kind of wanted to show, I don't think I've ever shown on any of my videos this particular spot in the making of it. I've shown how to line them up and how to color them, but I've never actually shown how to, once they're stitched. So then what I do is once I have all of them in this type of a row up here, I will, and forget the mess, there's a bunch of quilt backs and boxes there for my kids' college quilts, and then the backs. So in order to make it sure that it's not too big of a quilt, you need to get the size sheet you want for the size bed. So I use a king size sheet for a full twin bed cover, because it will reach the floor. So you can use a king size sheet to back it, and it will cover all the way to the floor, twin size bed. And it will cover a full and a queen, but it won't touch the floor. So it's not a bedspread, but it is a blanket, and my kids use theirs all the time on there. In fact, the last 2 weeks I've been to 2 different homes, and they both have them on different size beds that they're just using. So once I get to this point, how I sew it so I don't mess up, I have messed up before, is I take the top one and I flip it over like that, and then I just pin with my fingers, and I take it over and then I pin it evenly at the sewing machine. So then this side would be pinned, like I would pin this side, and then I would sew that side, because that's the square that goes on this side of the quilt. And then once I have those two sewn, I come and I pick up this one and I flip it over like this. And you can see I used somebody's, this is the back of another shirt. It doesn't matter what the shirt is. I just keep the backs off of different shirts. So then I flip that one over, I'll pin it and I'll sew it, and then I'll open it up and I'll come and I'll pick up this one and I'll flip this one over and stitch it down there. And I do that for the whole row. And then once the whole row's done and all the rows are done, I've got the rows all over here, then I'll come, make sure they're in the right position so the rows are all in the order that I want them. And then I'll take the top row, sorry my furnace is pretty loud, and then I'll fold it down like this, I'll pin it all here, and then I'll stitch this row, and then I'll lay those two down, and I'll do the next two. I don't pick up a third one because it gets so heavy that it starts to stretch, and I don't want it to stretch. So what I'll do is I'll come down and I'll take the next two rows. So I'll sew 2 rows together, and then I'll sew 2 rows together, then I'll sew 2 rows together. So I have three strips of 2 rows. And then once I've done those 3, then I'll fold the top 2 down over the next 2 and pin it and stitch that the 2 sets of 2 together. And then I'll flip the bottom 2 up and pin them on the bottom rows of the 4 now that are stitched together, and stitch those, and then the whole top will be sewn together. And I have posts on my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, how to lay out the king size sheet or whatever sheet you're using for the backing, and then lay the batting on top of it. So I'm not exactly sure how long this is, so I bought 2 different sizes of king batting. And then I lay the batting on top of that, make sure there's no bumps in it. You can throw it in the dryer for a few minutes to get the wrinkles and bumps out. And then I'll lay that on top of the king size sheet, and then I lay down the top of the t-shirt quilt that is now stitched together, how many ever rows you're doing. And I have 5 rows on this one because I'm making it longer than it is necessarily wide. That's just because I wanted like all his mission ones to be in the same row and things like that. So it's just the way that the quilt was laid out. And then I will put the top of the quilt on, and then I will cut the back sheet 2 inches wider than the quilt all the way around it, and I'll cut the batting down to just the even edge. So the batting is cut down just to the edge of the quilt top, and then I'll cut the backing 2 inches wider, and then I'll roll the backing and fold it over and then pin it so that it frames the quilt itself. I have lots of videos and lots of pictures on my blog and on my YouTube channel, so you can look at those and see. But this is just a kind of a interesting post because I've never actually posted in the middle of sewing the top together before. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.